All right, this is a video for 513 nodes, factoring polynomials to find zeros. Okay, after today, you're going to be able to find the zeros of a function by factoring. Okay, this little warm-up question right here, it says polynomial f of x, and there's an x minus 5 a factor, x minus 2 factor, and 4x plus 3 factor, has been graphed incorrectly. Identify the errors and how to fix it. Well, the errors are the zeros are not graphed correctly, okay? The factors will not equal to 0. So remember that when you have the factors, you got to equal them all to 0. So the actual zeros, the actual x-intercepts are incorrect in this graph picture, okay? So let's see. If I equal this to 0, x will equal 5. The signs will not change. X will equal 2. And then 4x will equal negative 3 divided by 4. X will equal negative 3 over 4. Okay, again, this is a negative 5 here, this is a negative 2, and this is a positive 3 over 4. Okay, so the signs were not changed. Okay, it should have been graphed the opposite way. If I can make that up, so this would be negative 3 over 4. This would be a positive 2 and positive 5. So if I would have graphed it, it would have gone like this. Okay, so signs were not changed. Okay, wasn't equal to 0. All right, guys. So today, right here, we're going to learn about factoring by grouping. We're going to review for what we learned a couple weeks ago. All right, guys. So factoring by grouping review. It's basically when you divide the function into two smaller parts, so you can take a greater common factor out of them. So something that they have in common. Okay. Because I don't know what x cubed and x squared and x, like I don't. That's too big of a function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it into two. I'm going to take care of the first part. Okay, which is the first two. And remember, it has to be in a descending order. So it has to be in a proper standard form where you go from the highest to the lowest exponent, okay? And then I'm going to do the other part on the other side, which is right here, which is positive 11x minus 33, okay? Now I'm going to try to take a greater common factor out of both. So between x cubed and negative 3x squared, where I can take out and divide by its x squared. If I divide x cubed by x squared, okay, I'm going to get x left. If I divide negative 3 by x squared, I'm going to get negative 3 left, okay, because these are going to cancel. All right. Now, on the 11x and negative 33, I can take 11 out of both. So if I take 11 out, I'm going to get x minus 3 again. So now what happens is you have your greater common factors in the front. You're going to group them together, and then you have the same factor to repeat. So in one parenthesis, I'm going to put a greater common factor. And in second parenthesis, I'm going to repeat the one factor once, okay? Okay, now I'm going to equal them to 0. So I'm going to equal each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So 11x squared plus 11 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 11 to both sides. Okay. X squared will equal negative 11. I'm going to square root both sides. Oopsie. Square root both sides. So x will equal plus or minus. There is a negative there, which means that's an I. So that's going to be root 11i. Okay. Now I'm also going to take x minus 3 and equal it to 0. And x will equal 3. Okay, if I move it to the other side. So these are my roots, okay? These are my x-intercepts. These are my zeros. Zeros meaning they're not as 0 as a number. It's a name for another name for when x intercepts, when the function intercepts x axis, okay? All right. Now I'm going to do the second part, okay? The second question, number 2. So again, I'm going to split it into 2. First, I'm going to do x cubed minus 8x squared. And the second part is going to be negative 25. Because remember, there's a negative here, okay? So it's very important that we put the correct signs for the second part. So negative 25x minus 25a. And again, what I'm going to try to do is take a greater common factor. So from the first one, I can take x squared again. If I divide both of them by x squared, I have an x squared on the outside as my greater common factor. What I have left is x minus a. And for the second part, I can take negative 25 out. Okay. So I got negative 25. And what do I have left? X minus a. So again, this factor right here, guys, repeats. Okay. And then, of course, I'm going to group the greater common factor together. So I get x squared minus 25 in one parenthesis and x minus a in a second one. Now, I have to equal it to 0 to solve for x. So x squared minus 25 equals 0. I'm going to move 25 to the other side. X squared equals 25. I'm going to square with both sides. X equals plus or minus 5. Okay. And now here, x minus a equals 0. I'm going to add a to both sides. X is equal to a. Okay. So these are your 2 roots and 2 zeros. All right. Now I'll let you guys try it. So pause the video and try this. All right. So it says determine whether each statement is true or false. Okay. So we're going to see if these are our correct zeros. So again, we're going to divide it in half. I'm going to do the first part. X cubed plus 5x squared equals. And then I'm going to do negative 4x minus 20 equals. I'm going to try to see if I can take a greater common factor out. From the first one, I'm going to take x squared out. If I divide it by x squared, what's left? I have an x left and 5. Okay. For the second one, I have negative 4x and negative 20. So what I can take out is negative 4 out of both. Okay. If I divide them by negative 4, oopsie. What do I have left? I got x left and then plus 5. So again, these two are the same. So we must have done it correctly. Now I'm going to put it together. The 2 greater common factor on the outside together into one factor, and then x plus 5 as another factor. Okay, I'm going to equal them to 0. So x squared minus 4 equals 0. X squared moving the 4 to the other side equals 4. Square rooting x equals plus or minus 2. And then x plus 5 equals 0. X will equal negative 5. So this is a true statement. Okay. Oh, no, it is not a true statement. I made a mistake. It is not a true statement, okay? Because right here, it only says that this is a positive 2, and we got both, okay? We got plus or minus, so we have 3 zeros versus according to the answer given, it was 2. So very, very tricky right here. This is a false statement. Okay, now pause the video if you need to write that down. All right, question 2. If you tried it, here we go. Again, I'm going to split it in half. So I got x cubed minus ax squared equals, and I got positive 36x minus 36a equals, okay? So I'm going to divide the first equation by x squared, because I can take 2 x's out of both. So if I have x squared as my greater common factor, what's left is 1x and then a, okay? Because this is going to cancel right here, all right? And this is going to become 1. Now, 36x minus 36a, I can take a, what can I take out? I can take 36 out. So 36 out, divided by 36, divided by 36. Okay, so what's left? It's going to be x minus a. So again, these two will match. Okay, the factors will match right here. And then I'm going to combine the fronts together. So I got x squared, okay, plus 36. So I'm taking these two and put them into one factor. And then I got the second factor is x minus a. Okay, now again, we're going to equal them to 0. So x squared plus 36 equals 0. All right, we're going to move 36 to the other side. We're solving for x. X squared will equal negative 36. Remember, when there is a negative and you square rooting, you are going to have an I. Okay? So x will equal plus or minus 6i, okay? Now, for the second one, it's x minus a equals 0 right here. All right, so we're going to add a, x will equal a, okay? So what was our question right here? What was the answer? The answer was plus or minus 6i and a. This is a true statement. The answers were correct. All right, here it's error analysis. Ella factored the polynomial x cubed plus 3x squared plus 2x plus 6, but she did it incorrectly. Find an error and explain what she did wrong, then factor the problem correctly and show your work. All right, let's just work it out. So I'm going to divide it by in half, okay, and write the first part and then the second half separately. So I'm going to take x squared out of this first one. What I have left, x plus 3. And then the second one, I can take, what can I take? I can take 2 out, right? Divided by 2. Okay, so I have x plus 3 left. Okay, so these two are going to go together. I get x squared plus 2. So again, they did it in one line, but they did exactly the same thing as I did. Okay. And then, so that's one parentheses, and the second will be x plus 3. I see the error. They wrote the second factor twice. And you're only supposed to, since it's repeated, you're only supposed to write it once, okay? So you do not write a common binomial twice, okay? So that's a binomial, and it's common, so it means it repeats. Okay, so that's where the mistake was. And of course, you would have solved it moving forward by equaling it to 0. So x squared plus 2 equals 0. X squared equals negative 2. Square root, we would have gotten x equals plus or minus I root 2. And then here, x plus 3 equals 0. And x will equal negative 3. Okay. All right, so here is just a area model. Okay. And we're just going to complete it. So when you're multiplying it, they multiplied a plus b and ax squared minus ab plus b squared, okay? So now when you're looking at it and you're combining, it's already multiplied for you, but when you're combining the like terms, okay, I'm going to have a cubed right here, which is the first one. Then as you notice, these two will zero out because that's a squared b minus a squared b, so there will zero out. The second line again will also zero out because negative ab squared plus ab squared will zero out. And then all you have left is b cubed. So this property says that when you're multiplying a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared, what you're going to get at the end is a cubed plus b cubed, okay? So very important to remember for the property, whenever you have an addition here, you are going to have an addition here, okay? So that's the property. When you're multiplying one binomial with a quadratic, you are going to have a cubed plus b cubed as a result. Now, what happens when you're multiplying a negative a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared? Again, these are going to zero out, okay? These are going to zero out. So what's left is a cubed minus b cubed, okay? Again, when you're multiplying a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared, very important to remember that whatever you're multiplying the negative binomial, you are going to end up with a cubed minus b cubed. All right. So again, this is just a little review for you guys, okay? So just to review, the difference between the two formulas is only the sign, okay? Now, Also, here's SOAP, which is same, opposite, always positive. What does that mean? That means when you have a plus here, you're going to have a plus here, just so we talked about it here, right? The same sign, okay? Now, when the plus is in between them, here it's always going to be the opposite, right? So these two are always going to be the same, plus and plus. Here you're going to have a negative, and this will always be positive, okay? So again, if you have an a cubed minus b cubed, okay, you are going to have b cubed. That would mean that on the inside, you're going to have a negative here, okay? Now here, you must have the positive, which is the opposite sign. So you're going to have a positive right here, minus AB, okay? It has to be the opposite sign. And then the last one right here will always be positive, okay? All right. All right, so here it says to factor it out. So we're going to use the same formula that we just learned, okay, right here to solve this. So I'm going to change the a cubed to 8 cubed. Remember that it was a cubed plus b cubed, right? Oopsie. Okay. So I'm going to change x cubed to 2 cubed so we can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I just changed the a to be 2 cubed, which is the same. Now, that's my a, that's my b. Okay, remember that the formula said when you have the positive here, this is going to be positive. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it. It's going to be a plus b. Okay, a plus b times a squared. Now minus, which is the opposite. If I'm matching this one with this one has to be opposite, okay? Minus ab plus b squared. Now we're going to plug in the numbers that I got. So my a, okay, it's x cubed, and my b, it's now, oops, I'm sorry, it's not x cubed. My a, it's now x, okay? And my b, it's now 2, okay? That's my a and b, all right? Now, I'm going to take my a and square it, so x squared, okay? Minus my a times b, so that's just x times 2, which is 2x, plus b squared, which is 2 squared. Okay, now I'm going to work that out, so that's just x plus 2 in parentheses, x squared minus 2x plus 4. That's my equation, okay, using the difference between the two formulas, okay? Pause it if you have to write that down. All right, next equation. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to convert the 27x cubed to be 3x cubed altogether. And then I'm going to also convert the -1 to be cubed, okay? So this is my a and this is my b, okay? Now there's a negative sign there. So remember that a cubed minus b cubed was a minus b, which was the same signs right here, okay, times a squared. Now the sign is going to be the opposite, okay? It's going to be a squared plus ab plus b squared. Okay, so let's plug it in. I got 3x minus 1, okay, because that's my a, that's my b. Now, a, what is my a? 3x squared. What is my a times b? That's 3x times 1, which is just 3x, and then plus b squared, which is 1 squared, okay? So that's going to be positive 1. So now I'm just going to distribute the 2 here. So this is going to be 3x minus 1. This is going to end up being 9x squared minus 3x plus 1. All right, so we're going to work out this example right here. So we get x cubed minus 64. So I'm going to exchange that and put x cubed minus 4 cubed. Okay, 4 cubed is 64. So again, this is your a, and this is your b. So remember, this is negative, so we're going to have a, the formula is a cubed minus b cubed will equal a minus b. So these two signs are going to be the same. And then a squared, this sign is going to be the opposite. So now a plus, ab plus always b squared. Okay, so we're going to plug it in. So that's going to be x minus 4. Okay. And then here we're going to have a squared. So it's going to be x squared plus a times b. So that's 4x. So 4 times x. Okay. And then plus b squared, which is 4 squared, which is 16. Okay. So that is going to be your equation. All right. And then the last one right here. Very important. You do want to take a greater common factor out first at all times. Okay, so I can take 4 out of here first. So I'm going to have to make it smaller. It's just easier, especially if you cannot cube it. So you're going to take 4 out. So that's going to leave with x cubed minus 1. Now I can replace that 4, it's on the outside. I can replace that with x cubed, okay, minus 1 cubed, okay? This is what it's going to look like. So again, this is your a, and this is your b. Now this is a negative again, so this is going to be a minus b. And here you're going to have a squared plus, which is the opposite, ab, and always plus b squared. So let's plug it in. Again, a minus b, so that's x minus 1. Okay. And then here you're going to have a squared, so that's x squared. Okay. Plus a times b, so that's 1 times x, which is x, and then plus 1 squared, which is 1. Okay, and don't forget about your greater common factor in the front.